Okay, so let's just open with a short time of prayer. Father, at this time, when we can't be together in person with one another, we can be together united with you. We can be together in spirit, Lord. We are one body. And we thank you that you have brought each of us together, Lord. That we're each a vital part of this body that is the church. That we are connected, Lord. That at a time like this we can get strength through you. That we don't need to walk in fear. Yeah. That we don't need to worry. We just need to be obedient and to trust. And we ask, Lord, if we can't trust, that you give us the strength. You show your power, Lord. You bring us through this, Lord, as you do in your time. Amen.
Amen.
Ecclesiastes 3. There's a temptation to sing it, but I can't sing, so I won't. There is an occasion for everything. There is a time for every activity under heaven. There's a time to give birth, there's a time to die. There's a time to plant, and there's a time to uproot. There's a time to kill, and a time to heal. There's a time to tear down, and there's a time to build. There's a time to weep, and a time to laugh. There's a time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to throw stones, and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace, and a time to avoid embracing. A time to search, and a time to count as lost. A time to keep, and a time to throw away. A time to tear, and a time to sow. A time to be silent, and a time to speak. A time to love, and a time to hate. A time for war, and a time for peace. The book of Esther, chapter 4:14 tells us, "For if you remain completely silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from a known place. But you and your father's house will perish. Yet who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" The Bible has a lot to say about timing. I wrote this about 5-6 years ago, to be fair. And at that time, I was questioning the whole process of God's timing on a variety of levels. But mostly, it was not so much about the traditional, why is he taking so long to answer, but more, why now? Why does this happen now? Why was this poor person born when they were born, and that person born then? It kind of started with a very typically cheesy 1980s praise song, and I couldn't get the tune out of my head, or the line, "For I know I was born for such a time as this." Now at that time I was reading about the history of the King James Bible, and its role in some great and at times disturbing events in the past 400 years. A continuous list of certain notable people in the right places at the right time, with the right words. All these people with reputation linked by the unnamed. And just one of them was out of time or missed their part, then things could have been so different. If we take an example, there's a young man from Hull. He's a bit wayward, so his parents sent him to London to stay with his uncle, where he'd get a better education and hopefully some discipline. He graduates from Cambridge and becomes an MP, discovers drinking and gambling amongst other things. But he also meets someone who takes him under his wing, offers him a chance to come travelling over the summer, gives him a King James Bible to read. He reads it on his travels, and when he returns, he's had an intense conversion. He considers giving up his career, but the man that he'd met years earlier persuaded him he could do more good as an MP than not as an MP. Now that man who persuaded him was John Newman. The MP was William Wilberforce. 2 years prior to this, a group of believers known as dissenters questioned the Bible scholars and the leaders who felt it dangerous to allow the common person to read the Bible. Then Cardinal Wolsey and William Tyndale clash. Tyndale flees to the land of the printing press. Then we have Henry VIII, his questionable morality, with a follower of Tyndale's by the name of Anne Boleyn. An incredible set of circumstances that leaves Lady Grace succeeding the throne for a few short days before being executed to make way for Mary, and a course of events that eventually leads this king from Scotland, James, coming to England and being persuaded that it's in his best interests to commission a translation of the Bible into the common language. All this coincidence, all this intrigue, all this alleged coincidence, if it hadn't taken place, John Newton would not have got the King James Bible. He would not have written Amazing Grace. He would not have passed his Bible to William Wilberforce, who in turn is recorded in the annals of history as the man that set the world on the course for the abolition of slavery. How about this one more coincidence, if you'll bear with me? Richard Weaver is born in 1927 to an alcoholic farmer and his praying wife. From the age of 7, Richard Weaver worked 70 hours a day in the coal mines as a cart dragger, dragging trolleys of coal strapped to his back. He gains a reputation as a fighter, a nasty fighter who one day gouged the eye of an older man out with his bare hands. His behaviour gets worse. He was known to attack his praying mother while she prayed for his salvation. At the age of 24, he himself is ready to die, prepares to kill himself when he hears an audible voice. He knows to be God. He chooses not to kill himself, but he also chooses to carry on with his way of life. A year later, he's saved. Weaver's desire to tell the world of his salvation is not well received. He's always struggling for acceptance. He's not wanted in the established church, but he persists. At one point, to placate him, he's asked to lead the girls' Sunday school group, which is being disrupted by one rapid little lady. In that one session, Richard Weaver goes in. That disruptive girl and 23 others received Jesus Christ as their Lord and Saviour in that one Sunday school lesson. But he still was not invited to share with the church as a whole, mostly because of his brash tones and his uncompromising testimony. Richard Weaver, unable to speak in the churches, takes his message to the streets, to the pubs, to the public halls. One time he's preaching, there's a commotion. A man walks past, hears the noise, and walks in hoping to witness and get involved in the fight himself. What he gets involved in is his own salvation. That man's name is Henry Morehouse. He becomes a travelling preacher with 2 of his friends. Like Richard Weaver, unable to find acceptance in the churches, they go to the horse races, to the vice dens, the theatres, the drinking clubs, and they spread the word there. They see a poster advertising for a well-known British speaker who's moved to America, who's come back to preach. They go to watch and to listen. Morehouse, bold and brash, says to the minister, I'll return the favour, I'll come and speak in your church. That minister, a bit half-heartedly, says, by all means, call in when you're over. I'll see if I can slot you in. Imagine his surprise when a few weeks later, Richard Morehouse turns up on his doorstep. As Christ would have it, in his perfect timing, the preacher's about to go away again, and there's a gap. That preacher was none too thrilled when he came back from his visits to hear the young upstart speaking a contrary message to his own. He preached about the anger of God at the sinner. This young man, Morehouse, is making a remarkably good case for the grace and the forgiveness and the love of Jesus Christ. Unusual for this particular minister, he doesn't want to upset the apple cart. He lets Morehouse continue. He goes away and he writes these words. I thought I could not like a man who preached contrary to what I preach. I went there Saturday night to hear him. I had already made my mind up I was not going to like him. I've not forgotten those nights. I have preached a different gospel since then, and I have had more power with God and man since then. That's the words of D.L. Moody, much acclaimed preacher, much acclaimed writer. Moody gets quoted left, right and centre. We hear of his protégés. He was an amazing preacher, an amazing man of God. But how different would his message have been if that mother had not endured the wrath and the anger of her son, if that son had listened to man and not to God, if Morehouse had not obeyed God and travelled to America, if Morehouse had allowed rejection to get the better of him, whether we are a Moody or a Wilberforce, or a Wheeler or Morehouse, or that praying mother, or that unnamed companions that travel with Morehouse, we are born for a purpose. We are born in the here and now for a purpose. We don't know what God has in store for us. We'll never know unless we're prepared to step out. Tyndall, Wesley, Whitfield, Bunyan, all were born in God's time, but would not be remembered if they did not choose to open their mouths, if they did not choose to move their feet or their pens to follow his calling. In this life we come across many people, many situations daily. With each of these we're given a choice, whether to see the people we meet as potential friends, potential enemies, a threat or a non-entity in our life. Important is that we have to remember each and every one of those people is made in the image of Christ, in the image of God, and they're not there by accident. The results of the choices that we make can be bigger than we may imagine. We may lose an opportunity to be a blessing. We may lose the opportunity to be blessed. Chance meetings and simple words play a role in our lives and in the lives of those we meet. The places we find ourselves, the people who come into our lives, are a result of our own choices, but also a series of God-inspired coincidences. As a Christian, we need to look at the role that God plays in bringing things into being. How different might history have been if just one of those people had not been born, or just one small decision had gone the other way. Elias Shakur, Nobel Peace Prize winner, states, in keeping with the breeding Esther, a wrong choice will not stop God's will being done, but it may deny you the opportunity to be a part of it, and also change the course of your family. Elias won his award for peace in the Middle East, and if anyone knows about the consequences of a wrong choice, it's out there. But what does this have to do with our lives? What does this have to do with my run-of-the-mill humdrum life? Consider what happens when a believer prays for a loved one to come to salvation. You ever thought about it? When we pray, we call on the whole power of God, the whole power of heaven into action. It's like if you switch on an electric switch, you think you're just putting on a small amount of power, but all that's gone before that to get to that point. A person prays, God moves outside of time to make sure that the right people have the right experiences in the right places at the right time to say the right things and to share. Every prayer we pray, however small, has an impact, and it can go back for many years and it can affect the future for many years to come. When that person came into your life and told you about Christ, it was an answer to a loved one's prayer. It was not a coincidence. God made that person go through those experiences that made that person you listen to be in that place at that time for your salvation. So how do we know then when we are fulfilling God's purpose in our life? There seems to be some common factors: struggles, a definite conversion, a Holy Spirit indwelling, a level of opposition, prayer, and following Christ and not popular culture. Our journeys to faith may be different. Our experiences in carrying out our purpose may be different. We may receive different fortunes at the end of time, but these things remain: a definite conversion. No one, contrary to what you see on passports and equal opportunities forms, has ever been born a Christian. They've never been a Christian all their life. It seems an obvious truth to us, but your soul is the subject of an intense war in the heavens. Satan is real and he wants everyone for himself. Christ is real, he wants everybody for himself. His will is that none should perish. There are these two opposing strong forces fighting for your soul. They're not sitting around the table playing cards for people's souls, they're fighting. And how we become saved is unique to us. Whether we were raised in the church and discovered it was more than a lifestyle choice, whether we were in that church and we left it, but never got rid of that nagging feeling, or whether we've never been in the company of believers or heard the word and then something happens. Whatever the path is, there's always that point where the battle in the heavens to win us over continues, and we have that final choice to make. Every true believer will be able to point to that time when they made that choice. The apostles waited on the Holy Spirit before they went about mission without Jesus in person. Up until that point they had been achieving, but when the Holy Spirit anointing came, bigger things happened. That continued when we think about John Wesley. He was a preacher of note, but when he had his Alders Gate experience and the Holy Spirit fell, that's when his mission started. But we have to pray. We have to continue to pray to make sure that we follow God's plan for our lives. There are times when we're called to do actually nothing but pray and grow closer to Christ. Then when we set about doing what he calls us to do, we can move knowing that we're doing his will and following him. Then we come to this really difficult bit. It's a bit that I don't like, and I don't like a lot of the ways it's been put to me in the past. The greater the struggle, the bigger the calling. You know, nobody has an easy ride to mission. Nobody has an easy ride to living the life that Christ has called them to. Over recent years, there's been a massive temptation for people to write their testimonies down for all to see. And there's nothing wrong with that. I've seen the effects of somebody who receives a book as a gift, that's somebody's testimony, and then meets that person, and how that person helps them to make that choice. But when I look at Moody, when I look at Wilberforce, when I look at Bunyan, I find they wrote a million words about Christ before they wrote anything about themselves. Most of their life stories were told long after they were dead and buried, and it always involved times of great struggle, times of great strife. However hard it is to accept, when we have those struggles, if we're walking with Christ, we know we're being refined, we're being prepared, we're being sifted, ready for a greater calling. Or Satan is oppressing us because he doesn't want us to fulfill that purpose. It's hard, it's difficult, and sometimes I don't want to hear people reminding me of those two purposes, and I'm sure many others don't either. It'd be much better when I'm in the valley for somebody to come and hold my hand and walk beside me and be Christ in my life through that time. When we look at these people who've had great experiences, great testimonies to tell, Paul was beaten and imprisoned on a regular basis. Tyndale and Wycliffe were ostracised, criminalised for their role in printing the Bible. Charles Spurgeon, one of the most successful evangelists and preachers of all time, almost quit due to disasters, criticism and his depression. William Booth, founder of the Salvation Army, was sold by his family to pay a debt, and then he himself ended up in prison for debt. As with George Muller, he too was in prison for debt. John Wesley and William Carey, founder of the Methodist Church, founder of the Missionary Society, faced enormous battles in their marriages involving jealousy. John Wesley's wife pursued him across the country, assaulted him in the pulpit as he was speaking because she felt that he was interested in somebody else. Billy Graham received massive criticism for his involvement in challenging racial segregation as a little-known fact. He had a great friendship with Martin Luther King, who himself faced great opposition that ended in his death. I can go on and on and on, but I won't, and I don't want to get too cliche about this. But the more effective that we are going to be, the more we're going to have standing in our way. If the preachers and the evangelists who tell you that from the day they were saved, nothing stood in their way, they're either liars, deluded, or ineffectual. Satan doesn't see them as a threat. If you're not being challenged, if you're not facing opposition, it just means that Satan doesn't see you as a threat. He's aware of what our potential is. Listen to 2 Corinthians 11. This is Paul. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked night and day. I've been in the deep, in journeys, often in perils of waters, in perils of robbers, in perils of my own countrymen, in perils of Gentiles, in perils in the city, in perils in the wilderness, in perils in the sea, in perils among false brethren, in weariness and toil, in sleeplessness, often, in hunger and thirst, in fastings often, in cold and nakedness. Besides other things, what comes upon me daily, my deep concern is for all the churches. Who is weak? I am not weak. Who is made to stumble? I do not burn with indignation. If I must boast, I will boast in the things which concern my infirmity. The God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, who is blessed forever, knows that I am not lying. If Paul went through those times of struggle, so will we. The unpopular stand, making a stand against the common practices, is not a call to be unbiblical. It's a call to speak what God puts in our heart. It's a call to challenge at times, to go against the grain. The greatest evangelists, the greatest prophets seem to have been those that did not court popularity. They simply followed their desire to follow Christ. It's not about being rebellious or a troublemaker just because we want to be. It saddens me at times when people present themselves some sort of perfect model of Christianity, whilst never questioning whether it might be them themselves who is in error. Those who took the unpopular stand that we're referring to here are those who did so in the will of God, and always at a cost to themselves for the benefit of others. Wycliffe, Wilberforce, Wesley, Spurgeon, Wilson, again, celebrated as the pioneers and the great people of God, were outcasts in their own day. Sometimes called heretics, sometimes called blasphemers, pelted with stones and given death sentences. They weren't keyboard warriors. There are many people, in personal and global, who stepped out of their comfort of the accepted normal practices and attitudes to undertake the work of Christ. Daniel, Esther, Paul, Christ himself did it. Mary, when she heard the news that she was to be the mother of Jesus, wrote, "For he who is mighty has done great things for me. Holy is his name. His mercy is on those who fear him. From generation to generation, he has shown strength with his arm. He scatters the proud in the imagination of their hearts, puts down the mighty from their thrones, exalts the lonely, fills the hungry with good things, the rich he sends away empty. He has helped his servant Israel." We need to be cautious. For every Bunyan, for every Wesley, for every Wilberforce, there's been a plethora of misguided fools and foolishness carried out by those believing in them doing the word of God. There's also been atrocities when we look at apartheid and the Ku Klux Klan and people like that, and genocide carried out in the name of Christ. It's not a joke. When a person is truly in step with Christ, they come into conflict with the established order of things, but you will find nothing contrary to the word of God. If we're going to go against the grain, if we're going to speak what Christ calls us to preach, we need to be sure, and here's a few golden rules. He never contradicts himself. Therefore, if it's forbidden in the Bible today, it's not going to change. He will never call us to oppress other people. He will never call us to cause harm to another or to take part in acts contrary to the commandments. We are in his image, we are his children. He will never call on us to act in a way other than one that honours him. As a loving Father, he will never expect us to coerce or force others to follow him. He would ask that we encourage people with love. And he expects unity in his body, not blind acceptance, but still unity, still love. There was a great message quoted many years ago, and I'm not going to read the whole quote from it, but it was a preacher who was preaching to a group of young people going off to universities around the world. And he ended it with this: What will define you in life? Your title, your position, or your testimony? Planning for the future isn't about money, it isn't about power, it isn't about titles, it's about an eternity lived with Christ, because the focus is on the spiritual, not the temporary. If we can keep that in mind when we do our mission, when we look at those that take a position in time, they're called to do something seriously, we see that they choose not to chase after the shiny trinkets of the world, but rather they seek relationship with obedience with Christ. In our early days, we're placed in a place where people come into our lives and they bring us into relationship with Christ. But there comes a time when we find that we are in the place not just to be blessed, not just to receive, but to be the blessing. We continue to receive from that place where we are right now, and it's where we are called to reach out from, wherever we are now. Yeah. We might not always get the backing from everyone around us, and some might even think we're a little weird and quote common sense, but where we are now is where we're called to make a difference. In Hebrews 11, brilliant chapter of the Bible, how much more do I need to say? It would take too long to recount the stories of faith of Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, David, Samuel, and all the prophets. By faith, these people overthrew kingdoms, ruled with justice, received what God had promised them. They shut the mouths of lions, quenched the flames of fire, escaped death by the edge of the sword. Their weakness was turned to strength. They became strong in battle and put whole armies to flight. Women received their loved ones back again from death. But others were tortured for refusing to turn from God in order to be set free. They placed their hope in a better life after the resurrection. Some were jeered at, and their backs were cut open with whips. Others were chained in prisons. Some died by stoning. Some were sawn in half. Others were killed with the sword. Some went about wearing the skins of sheep and goats, destitute and oppressed and mistreated. They were too good for this world, wandering over deserts and mountains, hiding in caves and holes in the ground. These people earned good reputation because of their faith, yet none of them received all that God had promised. For God had something better in mind for us, so they would not reach perfection without us. A friend of mine was an extremely talented pianist, singer and comic, and one of his favourite pastimes was to get on the piano and sing a song in the style of. He would choose perhaps a melancholy singer and sing their songs in the style of a happy-go-lucky singer, or a heavy rock band in the style of the melancholy, whichever way round he did it. And I was reminded of those days as I considered what would happen if we're not obedient, if we don't do what Christ calls us to do. If our heroes of faith were born at the wrong time or chose to do something different. Bonhoeffer took up arms in his situation. I'm aware there are strong views in the morality of this, but we do know that he left a testimony. What if he decided to be a songwriter instead? What if Billy Graham had chosen to be a political activist and Martin Luther King had decided to be the evangelist? What would have happened to their messages? Would they have achieved all that they achieved between them? We're born in this time and in this place for a purpose. It's no coincidence that we are here now. It's no coincidence that the people we have around us are where they are. Even the culture, even the political landscape around us is why we are here. Go back to that quote in Esther. Who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this? You know, I keep hearing, these are unprecedented times. These are difficult times. But you know, you were chosen for this time. We're told that this is the most dangerous time this country has been in for 70 odd years. 6 or 8 is it? But God put you here. God chose for you to be here. God chose a special group of people to be alive in this generation. We're here today because he chose for us to be here with a mission, with a purpose. I don't know how it's going to end. I don't know why it's happening. What I know is each and every one of us has been placed here with a purpose. For such a time as this, you are here for such a time as this. Whether we're isolated, whether we're critical workers, essential workers, whatever our role is at the moment, we have a role to play. God doesn't have anybody who makes up the numbers. Every one of us is here for a purpose. Every one of us has a destiny in this time, in this place. I can't tell you what it is. I'm still trying to work out what my role is. But what I know, and I think this is why God's put this on me today, is that we are here for such a time as this. And he has our interests at heart. He has the interests of everybody. We have a role to play. He has a purpose for us. And let's just get on with it and do what he's asked us to do wherever we are and be his witnesses. Do not keep silent. Do not keep still. You have destiny and you're in the middle of it right now in this situation. Amen. Thanks be to God. Let's just pray. Father, show me the way. Father, show each of us the way. Show us what you call each of us to do. How we are to serve you at this time. How we are to glorify you at this time. How we are to further your kingdom at this time. We pray for a swift end to this crisis, to this situation. But we trust in you also, Lord. And Father, whatever it is you want us to do in the midst of it, prepare us, show us what it is that we have to do, and